All right, welcome to StepZen's June community update. I'm Lucia, developer here at StepZen, and I have Sam joining me today. I'm really excited that Sam is joining us because he is one of the creative masterminds behind one of our latest new developer tooling toys. It's called Restographql, and I'll let Sam describe what it does and show you how it works.
Yeah, so I'll show a little demo of Restographql, but what it is Restographql is a user interface and a user experience of StepZen CLI's introspection tool of REST endpoints, right? So the ability to take a REST endpoint, provide us, JSON in a post body, the ability to provide path parameters, UTM parameters, or standard headers, right? If you have actual authorization to be able to ping a REST endpoint, we combine all that, and I combine it all into a StepZen introspection, and then we'd be able to generate that GraphQL schema, and then we generate a public endpoint for individuals to be able to share that endpoint, use that endpoint in their demos, the ability for someone to kind of understand how GraphQL works in a JavaScript app, Python app, or you can even just curl it directly. So without further ado on that, I can share it.
Nice. Yeah, it's really cool to see just all of the complexity that's been reduced inside this tool.
Yeah, and here I'll zoom in so people can see very easily. What we have here is kind of the finished. So I decided to bring up the finished version so we know what we're going to be getting ourselves into and what we're actually going to see at the end of us converting a REST endpoint into GraphQL. So you can see here, we have the standard header, everything, but what is really important here is we have our endpoint, right? So this is a public endpoint that's generated on top of StepZen. As you can see, it's tied to StepZen here. And then I have Infura, which will be a little fun demo that I'll do today, which is a Fura API that's in the Web3 space. I thought the JSON example that they had was really good. So I am going to go get us the latest block on the Ethereum chain. We'll be able to just get that as a result and be able to identify those numbers and see where they are on the chain at this point through the REST endpoint. And so, right, so we have this long hash here and everything like that, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're going to be able to get to a point to where we can copy a JavaScript fetch, right? So a standard fetch with a GraphQL endpoint. And I already have results there, so you can see. But here I'll actually add another field in here. In the hash, I only ask for one field so that we can keep that hash as short as possible. But as you can see there, right? So we just asked from StepZen, we're able to get ID and results. And I'm going to show you how we went from a REST endpoint, which is where we're actually getting this from, to fetching this from StepZen and being able to get the same exact data in a response of an ID and a result of the latest block on the Ethereum chain. And so let me pop on over there to the standard page. And I'll zoom out a little bit so we can kind of see a little more of an overlay of what's going on. So I didn't have to flip back and forth between screens while I was doing this. I'm on one today. I already punched it in here, but I'll talk about what I punched in. So as you can see, we have mainnet, right, which is the standard main network of the Ethereum chain. We are going to ping Infura's REST endpoint. We're going to have version 3 of the REST endpoint. And then this is just my ID that, I just use this for demos. So it's okay to share that. But this is your unique ID that you may want to keep secure. But the beauty of what we do with Restographql is we keep everything local, right? So you only have local environments and everything here is not going to be stored on StepZen at all, which explains why we have like long hashes and things like that when you want to share it. I don't know if there's any questions or anything we see at this point, but if not, I'll just keep rocking.
If I wanted to share it, I would take a link from that page that you showed beforehand.
No, so that was the results page. So that page, I just wanted to show what we're going to get to. I'm going to generate that in just a few seconds. Okay. This is just take any REST endpoint that you have, punch them into here, and you'd be able to, And well, now I will have to kind of go back and forth a little bit. Or maybe it saves it. That'd be kind of nice. Oh, whoops.
Maybe if you control.
Oh, wow. Well, whoops. Let me see what's going on there. Here, hold on. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm punching it in again.
All right.
I think that's my local machine. Hold on. Let me punch it in again. And be able to get that paste in there.
Can mess you up, especially been reviewing a lot of PRs recently.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, maybe it's just my local machine right now. Yeah, I have so much stuff up right now. I wouldn't be surprised. So, all right, I got it up here again. And share the screen. Cool. And so what we have here, right, we have a post. So the ability to actually post to this endpoint, right, we're going to have to do that because we are actually providing a post body. And so all I did was I provided the endpoint mainnet with my ID to be able to actually get that latest block on the Ethereum chain. And then I put in JSON here. And if you have invalid JSON, it won't allow you to generate it. I'd say there's an error there.
Copy and paste moments, right? So it's very nice.
Yep. So make sure it's valid. Right now, we don't have a way of being able to provide query parameters and JSON together. It's just the arguments that we actually generate in the GraphQL query right now kind of doesn't allow both of those to go side by side. So there's other things that, this is a new introspection service. So please just, if you see anything, like let us know. We have an awesome Discord that you can always hit us up on. Go right down here. Yeah. And so,
oh, right. There's a link in Restographql too.
Yeah. So feel free to ping that if you have anything going on in there. If you have to have any headers in there, let us know. If you have any authorization, right? Standard bearer tokens, basic. Sometimes you just have a API key that you have to punch in here. We support all those for you to be able to combine that with your JSON or your query parameters if you do it separately and things like that. But once you have it all set up like this and you're ready to punch your ticket and be able to actually get a GraphQL endpoint, we can click generate. And what we're doing right now is we're actually introspecting that. We're generating a schema, and then I'm actually generating and creating a example query for us to be able to run on top of the new public endpoint that's also being generated. So it goes schema, then we generate a public endpoint on top of that GraphQL schema, and then we find an awesome query example for you to be able to use on that page.
So it's all deployed, and then we have some boilerplate to reduce the amount of coding you have to do after that if you want to consume it in the front end. That's really cool.
Yeah, and this is a public endpoint, right? So if you generate anything with authorization headers or something like that, we really emphasize that like this is all going to be provided as query arguments. We don't store any headers. Nothing is there. It's all local. So that's why the endpoint is able to be public, is because you have to provide us as a GraphQL argument, as you can see here, as a variable in your query. Every single time you have to be able to provide that header there so that we never store it or anything like that. That's also why we have this very long hash here. Because if you ever want to be able to share this page, right, as I showed before, and come back to it, the only difference is now you have one field, because there could be a million fields that come back in a sample query response. So I just bring back one, the first one I find that's not an object. But otherwise, when you first come to this page, right, you'll be able to get all the fields here. As you can see, ID, the RPC is where we're going to get, and then the actual result of the latest block. Right. So.
And then, so it's cool to hear how you solved all these problems, kind of like in the front end of this. If I wanted to have an endpoint that I could protect with a key, then I would sign up for StepZen, right? And then we could do it with the command line interface and work a little bit more closely with the schema.
Yeah, this is absolutely just a starter. This is something where if you want to be able to actually do data linking, stitching of your data, the ability to enhance your data, rename fields, rename arguments, be able to have by default configurations like headers in your schema. That's where you can take these endpoints and you can just sign up for an account, and then you can just actually curl these GraphQL endpoints, and you'd be able to get the same exact schema as was generated here. So you just would curl this endpoint, and then you'd be able to get the same exact thing set up on your own account, and then you can do all that amazing stuff that StepZen provides with like custom directives. And so here, I'll just punch this in real quick, right? So this is also part of the user interface to where, as you can see down here, the variables are changing, right? So we have floats, which are just sometimes integers. It's more of just a hodgepodge of whatever number you could get. But then we have strings, right? So ETH, and if I remember how I spelled it correctly, it's like this block number, I think. It's like that. And I can double check on the other page. But then, so you can see if it's a string, it wraps it as a string appropriately. And the parameters are empty, right? We don't have any parameters on this one. So as long as I named ETH block number correctly, if we go into JavaScript here, we get the result back. And so now you have inferior query, You can see the ID, the JSON RPC was 2.0, right? We provided both of those, so it's just reciprocating those numbers to us. And then the result, the latest chain. And that'll change every single time. If you guys were to come back and do this in 10 minutes, you get the same exact response that you see here, but with a different latest block, because people are constantly moving on the Ethereum network right now.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thanks for showing us that, Sam. I appreciate it. It's pretty awesome. All right, I'm gonna share some exciting news that we have coming up here. So on June 6th, I believe it is, let me double check, it'll say in here, we have the StepZen GraphQL challenge coming up. So it is hosted by DevPost. You can join on the website. I'll be sending out a link. There's $14,000 available in prizes, and it is opening. Let's view our schedule. Yes, June 6th at 10 a.m. and it'll end on July 18th. So it's one of these hackathons. It's more along my preferences, where you're not like staying up all night and eating Domino's in a conference room. It's over a number of weeks, so you can take some time after your work hours are over and just kind of mull over it and keep adding to it if you want to, or you could join in the later weeks. Whatever time you'd like to join, we're welcome. So the challenge is to use StepZen in a unique way. You can use StepZen to create your GraphQL API for any data source, and we mean that. So your backend could be MySQL, be Postgres, REST APIs, GraphQL, NoSQL. And it can also be any combination of those. StepZen has ways of connecting them that are schema definition language first, which are pretty cool. You can head over to the StepZen GraphQL Studio to find our pre-built APIs and maybe work with those. Anybody can participate either by yourself or as a team. There's some rules available on the webpage that I'll share.
Are rules included, like how large your team can be?
Probably. Let's go look. Let's see. It says teams of eligible individuals. So
no, so just lay it out there. Get a big team going.
The entire town.
There you go.
We've got a lot of different wonderful examples out in our GitHub repositories. You could get started. To get started, you sign up for a StepZen account. You'll install our CLI. We've got some tutorials here, links to that. So the requirements, the solution has to be developed using, a StepZen GraphQL API. And we will be looking for a text description along with a 3-minute demo video and the URL to your public repository. And that's pretty much it for now. Did I miss anything that hackathon participants might want to know, Sam?
No, there's so much information in here that read through it. And
Really?
If you find anything, like as we say, let us know. Right?
Yeah, and again, using our Discord is going to be a great way to get in touch with us. I'm really excited to see the things that you come up with and also the questions that you have and to help support you. I myself and Roy and Sam will all be watching Discord to see the questions that come in over this time period. Again, super excited to run this hackathon. So the next thing that I want to share is a quick little update to our Getting Started page. So we have a Getting Started page on the website that helps you with sort of like mini tutorials that helps you get started quickly with StepZen. And we've added a new tutorial to our NoSQL section. And it's for DataStax Astra. So really, it's just a few steps. You collect your variables from your DataStax account, then you run StepZen import GraphQL. StepZen import is a StepZen CLI command that it also takes things like MySQL and Postgres, and it generates GraphQL schemas from that, whatever backend you pick, and then you can deploy them from there with StepZen start. So that's one update I wanted to share. And then the last thing, which kind of relates to Sam's update is that we now have public endpoints available. So basically, you can run StepZen 2 ways. You can run for you can deploy endpoints from your account, or you can log in using the public flag now. And as you can see in this GIF that I created, you can use that to deploy your endpoint. These endpoints are available for about 30 days. And again, if you want to introduce sort of protection to your endpoint and not make it public, then we do recommend that you sign up. But they are really a nice, easy way to try out StepZen without having to go through sign up and see for yourself how it works. You can also, there is a sort of a mini tutorial in the third part of this blog post that we just published that shows you how to use the flag. And then I will share the links to everything that we shared because it was a decent amount of fun stuff. Yeah, I'm super excited for the hackathon. I think it's always fun to see what people come up with, and the solutions that they have using GraphQL and StepZen.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I would say to the hackathon is use whatever tools are most reliable to you on getting started with GraphQL. GraphQL is very new for a lot of people. It's definitely considered in adoption phases right now where people are learning how to use GraphQL, and to use StepZen with it, you need to be able to find what makes you comfortable in generating GraphQL endpoints. So don't feel like you have to take the long route, right? If you want to use Restographql to be able to just generate a simple starter for you to be able to query, make sure you just get things started in your application on the idea that you want to build, and then advance the GraphQL endpoints and see what you can really do in there to be able to do more things on the server, right? Rather than the ability to do everything in your client, as a lot of JavaScript developers learn when they're building front-end applications. That's what I've noticed. I just went to the Remix conference.
That's a fantastic piece of advice, really. It is. And we've amassed kind of a treasure trove of examples of how to consume GraphQL and use it. Again, they're all on that dev post GraphQL page. We've got a GitHub repo of templates. We've got the StepZen GraphQL Studio, which I'll drop in the links here. So yeah, really just find a way that works and then build from there. So yeah, really super excited to see what comes in.
Minimum viable product, right? Make sure that you have everything stitched together and then start to advance the individual pieces as you continue to build, rather than building one a lot and then having to build some overly convoluted, complex portion of it, whether it be the back end or front end. So start easy.
We are really interested in seeing beautiful GraphQL schemas. So that's the key.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. I think that concludes our June community update. Thanks for joining me, Sam. We appreciate you, our StepZen.
Did you go mute? Maybe.
Let's see. I think it was your AirPods. Yeah, you're mute. All right. Bye, Sam.